If you guys are like us, where you just live somewhere that is hot as hell, it's really hard to fish during the day.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of our time during the summer fishing after dark and fishing at night. Now, fish position and layup and do things totally different after dark. So today we're gonna break down, we're gonna kind of do the same thing we did on the last one.
Okay.
We're gonna use our experience from different types of fishing, and we're gonna break down our favorite ways to catch fish during the summer night fishing. You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna wanna go night fishing after this though.
Let's go.
Yeah, night fishing is so fun. So here we go. If you guys are ready, let's do it. Welcome to the Hookup Tackle. The Hookup Tackle is the world's largest showcase of Megabass products, featuring baits and colors not found at any other dealer. The Hookup also offers a wide display of OSP, Evergreen, Deps, Lucky Craft, Jackal, and many more. The Hookup Tackle is owned and operated by family, is staffed by guides and verified tackle nerds who love helping anglers elevate their craft. If you're in the Phoenix area, we'd love to have you stop by our showroom and check out the wonderful world of Megabass and the Hookup for yourself. If you shop online, there are almost 10,000 SKUs of Megabass products alone, with hundreds of other companies and new products being added daily. So next time you're looking for that hard to find bait, that color your fish have never seen before, or maybe you just want to elevate your game, look at thehookuptackle.com. All right guys, welcome back. Ben and Griff with the Hookup Tackle. We are going to break down our favorite nighttime fishing presentations and baits for you guys. If you guys aren't night fishing during the summer, you are missing out. It's totally different, right? It's a different experience, but some of the biggest fish of the year for me come night fishing during the summer. It's kind of like what we talked about in the last summer video. You know, water temps get so high, the sun is out for so long, and the fish just get lethargic, right? They feel a lot like us, where they're just kind of like, bleh, they don't want to eat, and then all of a sudden the sun goes away, and the water cools a little bit, and they don't have all that intense heat, and it's their opportunity to move up and feed. So, it's a great time of the year to catch your biggest fish. It's a fun way to do it. So we're gonna do this the 1-2 approach, same as we did last time. You cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
I'll talk about some of the bigger lakes that I like to fish at night. You can talk about your approach on some of the smaller stuff, and I think it'll be a good insight. I'm looking at your pile. We have a couple similar things, but also some very different things once again. So let's do it. So where do you normally start in the summertime? Do you break this down like top, middle, bottom like we've talked about before, or what's your approach usually?
Yeah, so it's going to be the same exact way. I'm going to start with the top, and then I'm going to go straight to the bottom.
Okay.
But, obviously the presentation is going to be a little bit different, but it's going to be almost exactly how I started the last time. I'm going to start super aggressive and then just get less aggressive as the night goes on.
So you're fishing more shallower water, heavier cover, right? And I'm traditionally fishing more like bigger water, more I'd say like rocky or offshore cover.
Okay.
Right? How do you find that the bass at night position differently than they do during the day, or what is their mood like at night versus during the day?
So you're not going to see as much schooling and chasing at nighttime where I'm at. A lot of our fish, I feel, position face towards the bank instead of out and about looking for food, and they're looking for the easy meals, mostly crawfish coming out of the ground and stuff like that. So a lot of my bites are coming inches from the bank, and then it's gonna come in the different columns of the water, but they're all coming in similar spots. So
I find it to be pretty similar where on the bigger waters too. So our waters are used a lot for power generation, right? So the lakes are usually dropping in elevation during the summer because they're flushing them downstream. So the lakes are dropping during the summer while they're generating power. Okay. And then in the winter when it rains, they fill back up. And what happens with the bass on these bigger lakes is the water is dropping is, you can go fishing for just bites, or you can kind of target like your bigger bite.
Yeah.
Right. And I find nighttime to be the best time for me to really target like specific big bites. Right. I kind of feel like Jeff must feel like in the winter, where he goes out there and he's like bypassing all those little fuckers, and he just wants that big one.
Yeah.
Right. To me, I feel most at home this time of the year to do this. Big fish, they like the protection of dark.
Yeah.
Right? And they don't want to move a really long way. So as the water is falling, they don't want to be up in like super skinny water and then the lake drops a foot and they got to swim half a mile to get to the next foot, right? They want to position in areas to where as the water's dropping, they can just like move with the water. Yeah, and then just move like super easy, super chill, but still be in these ambush spots. So it's pretty easy really to target and find the fish on the bigger waters too, because you just look for steeper banks, stair-step banks, places where the fish can very easily adjust up and down without having to move logistically a really far way. But I find that they position the same way. As that water drops, they know those crawdads are going to get dislodged, they're going to come back in the water, and they're going to be sitting there waiting for them.
Yeah.
So different waters, similar approach.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so where's your starting point, dude? What are you doing?
When I'm going for a night bite, I'm definitely starting with a buzzbait.
Okay.
So the buzzbait for me is going to be right as the light's going away.
Okay.
That's where I'm going to start with the buzzbait. I feel like it's loud, it's super aggressive, it's going to present a big meal for the fish, and then they'll be able to find it easy also. I'm fishing this. 9 times out of 10 I'm going to be paralleling the bank, so I'm not making long casts out. I'm going to try to find a bank line that doesn't have a lot of cover on the bank, like grass and stuff like that, so I can cast it out. Most of the time I want to pitch it onto the bank and then drag it into the water from there, if I can find a position where I can do it, and then just make the longest cast possible and work it all the way down the bank line.
So this is something like maybe as you just get there for that first little bit of time that you're using in your stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
And then do you find as the night goes on, they get away from this type of activity, or?
Yeah, so I feel as the night goes on, I'm gonna have to slow down.
Okay.
So they're just to make things easier for them to find.
Yeah.
Because they'll hear the bait, they'll use their lateral line to locate it.
Right.
But they still gotta find it with their eyes.
Right.
To eat it.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be my fast moving bait for the nighttime, and then I'm just gonna start slowing down as time goes on.
So it's interesting because I think this is the only thing that we have that's the same in our piles, but I also have buzzbaits in there, which is one of my favorite nighttime things, but completely different approach to what you just said. So for me, this is like my middle of the night bait.
Okay.
So what I find, and maybe it's because in the bigger lakes, what I think happens a lot of times is I think the fish position more in open water, like they suspend during the day. Like it's hot, there's boat traffic, there's just so much shit that the fish aren't really positioned on the bank, they're kind of just suspended out, right? And then I think as the sun starts to set and the lake traffic kind of goes away, they move back into the shallows where they want to be. But I find that when they're moving in, so like as the sun's setting, like what you're just talking about, I find that they're a little extra spooky.
Okay.
I find that they get in and they're not quite like with it yet, because they've spent all day with these humming, and they just kind of moved into the shallows. And like for me, I target them differently, but then once they're there and they're like, okay, now there's crawdads and there's bait, and they kind of like start to chill a little bit, I find that as the night goes on, they get a little bit more in the zone and they get more aggressive. So for me, the buzzbait is one of my favorite ways to catch them, but I feel like if I start too soon, I'm just spooking them. I'm scaring them. It's too much, right? But as they really kind of like chill and get with the program, then they can get super aggressive and attack it. I'd make the same cast you're talking about, put it right on the bank, drag it in, right? But I feel like they need to be a little extra juiced. So definitely, without a doubt, it's always tight on.
Yeah.
Because it's the funnest way to catch them.
Oh, yeah.
But definitely, I think it's important. We've never even talked about this, so this is really insightful for me. Like I'm enjoying this because it's two different ways of approaching different bodies of water
Yeah.
based on the fish's behavior. And that's really like the key to all of this. You have to give them what they are going to actually
Yeah, they're gonna tell you what they want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So definitely, you guys are just gonna have to figure it out. Are they gonna be juiced and eat it early, right? Or are they gonna be, juiced later in the night? So, try it both ways. See how your fish are relating, but don't be afraid to try the opposite of what you were initially thinking, because it may be that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Where do you go after the buzzbait? Let's walk through your night approach. What's next for you?
So the next thing I'm gonna throw is gonna be the Iwing.
You love this bait.
Yeah, this thing is amazing, especially at nighttime. It just gets bit.
Okay.
So I'm gonna throw it similar to our last video. I'm gonna target cover, and I'm just gonna creep it along, like, overhanging brush, on top of laydowns, things like that. Places where fish could be hiding, like ambush points and things like that. This RIB system that they have in there is a fish caller. It's just a fish call, like, and then it makes enough noise and with the plopping of the wings that
Yep.
it draws the bites in really well.
Are you making the same cast really that you're making with the buzzbait, but this is just allowing you to fish it slower, or are you totally changing your casts and your approach?
Yeah, so I'm gonna make a different cast. So this isn't necessarily against the bank. I'm gonna throw it, but at the river I fish, it's not very wide. So I'm gonna make more casts across.
Okay.
And then work it through the middle into the actual flow of the river.
Okay.
Because sometimes they'll be there, and then a lot of times when it gets really shallow towards the center of the river, they'll sit there in those rocks and just wait for stuff to come out.
What if you're fishing like a pond? Are you going to approach it differently? Are you going to fish it more parallel, or are you going to still do the same thing and focus on some of that mid-water type stuff?
If I'm fishing a pond that has grass, I'll fish the whole pond.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have a lot of grass, it has like some tules or some overhanging trees,
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna do a lot of paralleling.
I feel like crawler style baits were just built for grass
Yeah.
and current.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it seems like you guys destroy them around grass and current. It
Uh-huh.
seems like the bigger style lakes, as much as I want to catch them on the crawler, maybe I just suck.
No, they don't touch that shit.
Yeah,
It's hard.
They just don't want that crawler style bait. It doesn't seem like on the big, like, it's got to have grass or it's got to have current holding them. But
It feels very specific too, because the places that I've been the most successful have been, Colorado River, the Gila River, the rivers that have flowing water and a lot of grass.
so a combination of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's got to be an amazing way to catch them.
Oh yeah, it's fun because like when it's pitch black and you really can't see it, it's all audible. You're listening for it, and then it's violence every time something hits it.
Just destroys
It's
it.
never getting sucked down.
Right.
It's just pure violence, and then you just gotta hold on till you get your bearings and you figure out what's going on.
It's so dope.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, that
It's a good
sounds
time.
fun. So, I pretty much give up on topwater, other than the buzzbait. Like, that's kind of like,
Oh no.
that's my thing. You know what I mean? So for me, like, you're kind of approaching the night through these different phases, right? So I usually start the night more finesse than where you're going, right?
Okay.
So for me, like, I always start with soft plastics as the sun's going down. I feel like that's my best approach to get the bite when they're not like totally juiced yet, right? So for me, I've kind of got like two prongs to my starting point shallow. So free rig has definitely become like a main staple for
Yeah.
me for night fishing. And the two baits I pretty much live on the free rig is the Dolive Beaver and the bull flat.
Yeah.
So now for me, typically the Dolive Beaver is like a 3.5 or 4 inch size. This is like usually my starting point. And then with the bull flat, it's almost always the 5/8. Sometimes I'll go to 4/8 if I'm fishing like ponds and stuff, like that pond we fished the other night.
Yeah.
5/8 is probably just too big. So 4/8 is better. But this is usually like my big plastic, and this is like more like my traditional crawdad size. If you guys aren't using the free rig and you're fishing steep banks, you're missing out. So, we've talked about it a lot, so I'm not gonna like beat it over the head again, but the advantage of a free rig is when you're fishing like walls or steeper bank, is you can be super specific to your target. So even if you're fishing like a vertical bluff wall, right? Like something like this, nothing is truly flat, right? There's little cracks and there's little like small little rock piles and little things that come out that a bass will just sit on and wait for a crawdad to fall off it and they suck it in, right? So to fish those effectively, I could literally just keep my boat perpendicular. I don't even have to be parallel anymore with the free rig, and I could just throw it up on the wall and that weight just sinks straight down and it'll land on that little lip, and then my bait just very slowly kind of flutters down and gets wherever it's going to get, and I just kind of shake it back to the weight. It's just so effective when those fish are shallow. So the beaver, the bull flat, and the bull flat I like just because it's big. It's a big presence, so if they're feeding on bluegills, they're feeding on big shad, and they're just used to seeing like a big profile, then this is something that's just gonna glide. It's gonna have that same kind of glide on the free rig, right? But it's just a big presence. So that's usually, this and the buzzbait, that's kind of like my 1-2 starting point.
Okay.
Okay. What do you have for number 3?
So I'm gonna stick with top water.
Of course.
And everybody knows where I'm going.
I'm surprised this wasn't number 1 for you.
No, this is gonna be the gong. I'm gonna go smaller in my presentation, but louder.
All right.
Right? So when it's dark out, I'm gonna throw the gong. I can move it just as slow, but I can crank it in just as slow, but it's gonna have a lot more movement. But it's gonna be super loud. If you haven't thrown the gong and heard these blades, they are loud.
It's super squeaky.
Yeah.
Lots of clack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make a ton of noise. It makes a ton of commotion, and it just gets bit.
Is color important to you? We haven't really talked about color that much. Do you?
No.
So you don't care?
I don't care what the color is on these louder baits.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be able to get near them with the sound.
Yep.
And then it's not hard for them to locate them after that.
Okay.
So
a lot of times, you just think like nighttime black.
Yeah.
Right? So like, we had black buzzbaits in there, right? And I think on something like a buzzbait, I think colors may be important because it's moving so fast. I think it's important that they see the silhouette right away.
Yeah.
On something like this, you don't really care.
I don't care.
Okay.
I throw a lot of the translucent colors in the Iwing, like Gilco is one of my favorite colors.
Yeah.
And I exclusively throw that at night.
Okay. So even though it's clear,
and
it should break up the profile, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay. They still see it's still a silhouette up there. It's moving slow. They're finding it with the sound.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you making the same cast with the gong?
Yeah, same cast with the gong as I am with the Iwing.
Okay.
I'm just targeting cover, just moving it slow, and I'm gonna crank it all the way in. You get a lot of bites like at your feet.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think they're following it?
Yeah, they're definitely tracking it.
Okay.
And then I think they know as you're about to pull it out that that's their last opportunity. Yeah. So it's like now or never. Yeah. So they just boom.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a fun bait.
Yeah. I wish they ate the gong and the big stuff. No. And maybe they do. Maybe I just need to get on the gong wagon. Yeah. You know what I mean? But for me, so I mean, I do something similar as far as like I'll downsize and something more I wind. But for me, it's usually in like a mid crankbait. Okay. So this is something that is always tied on at night for me, especially around grass. So when they're in grass, I want this thing to get down in the grass so I can feel in the grass and then rip it out, right? If they're, on rock and they're feeding on craws and they're feeding real shallow, this is a bait that I can throw right up on the bank and just grind in that rock and be rather aggressive and really just cover a ton of ground. Right, because some nights it's a numbers game. Like they're juiced, they're aggressive, and it's just you make more casts, you catch more fish. And then other nights it's more specific target, right? So this is more like when they're aggressive. This is what I will go to. So these are the two cranks that I pretty much live on at night: the Deep-X 300 from Megabass and the Blitz Max DR from OSP. Very similar sizes. They're both loud. Right. So they've got sound to them. I stay in these darker colors, like golden black is great. you know, black and red, just something that's got some body to it down there. Maybe parallel, you know, just grind the stuff in the rocks, get it in the grass, rip it out. But a mid-depth crankbait is a great one, especially if there's any type of like flats, right? So like during the day, you know, maybe I'm fishing the ledges or the breaks with a really deep crank or drop shot or something on the ledge. But at night, a lot of times they'll move up on those flats and feed, and that's where, you know, this type of crankbait can really crush them during the summer. So if you guys are fishing anything like that, this is definitely worth a look. Definitely one of my favorites for the summer, you know, the MidCrank. All right, what's next for you?
So after I'm done with that, I'm gonna go to the bottom.
Okay.
I'm gonna go big.
Okay.
So the Magnum Beaver is one of my favorite baits to throw.
Okay.
And I'm gonna throw it on a free rig.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So I just feel like I have too much control, not too much, but so much control with the free rig over like a peg Texas rig or a weighted hook or something like that. The ability to separate the weight from the bait gives you a lot of options when you're throwing it.
Mm. And will you adjust the weight of your bait based on the depth or how you want it to go, or what are you doing weight wise?
So the weight, obviously I'm going to adjust the weight with the depth.
Okay.
So I want to get it towards the bottom as quick as possible, but I still want to have that flutter of the bait.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like a balancing act that you have to do when you're throwing it.
Sure.
Like you really have to pay attention to what weight you're using and what bait, because you know some baits sink faster, some baits don't. So I found like a 3/8 ounce free rig weight on a Magnum Beaver in the places that I fish is just perfect.
That's the combination.
Yeah.
And you like the Magnum size? You like that bigger profile?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna work it super slow. I'm
Okay.
gonna do small hops off the bottom. I'm trying to get like 6 to 10 inches of separation.
Okay.
And that's about it. I'm not trying to get that major separation like during the daytime and stuff like that with
Yep.
smaller baits.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get small separation, just get it to do that little kick.
Yep.
And then just settle on the bottom.
Perfect.
That's what I'm trying to do.
All right. So I also switch in my arsenal to more like bottom contact stuff, but for me maybe a little bit deeper water. So like as much as I want to catch them like right on the bank and shallow, they're not always there.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes you got to pull out to structure and fish a lot of the same stuff that you'd fish during the daytime. You're just fishing at night.
Yeah.
Reefs, breaks, that kind of stuff. So for me, a couple things that I throw, this is kind of like my 1-2 punch out deep. So this is something that I picked up from Hippie. He's been jacking them on this the last couple years. But the Magnum shaky head with the big worm is just deadly in the summer. Something about a big worm
Yeah.
in the summer, in the heat, they love the length, right? So the OSP Dolive Crawler in the 9-inch is kind of become our staple. It used to be the 10-inch power worm.
Yeah.
That used to be the worm that everybody threw out here, just Texas rig 10-inch power worm, right? And that certainly is still an amazing bait, right? And so you could catch tons of fish on it. But the Dolive Crawler on the big 8/0 Magnum shaky head is amazing. You can fish it out deep. You can pitch it shallow,
Yeah.
right? But it's just it's just this big worm that's down there creating a lot of movement. It's heavy enough sizes, again, 5/8. I'm a sucker for 5/8, 3/4 ounce, just because it's got so much versatility. But this is usually where I'll go when I need to fish it rather kind of slow and hop it so that big worm is just down there kind of pulsating down there. And then if I need to fish more aggressive, I'll fish the same way but with a big heavy spinnerbait.
Okay.
So, you know, 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, the SV3 has kind of become my favorite because it's really compact. So it's tight, so when they find it, they don't miss it.
Yeah.
Right? It's hard at night down there when it's moving, they miss it a lot. And I find that they don't on this. So I'll just go with, you know, the black or the red, you know, something dark. And this is one that I can just get down there to the bottom and just slowly crawl. Every once in a while, just kind of hop it, but just have it slowly moving up and over, you know, laydowns and branches and that kind of stuff. But that's kind of my 1-2 punch when they go to the bottom a little bit deeper. I feel like I can jack them on that.
Okay.
What else you got?
So as my night's winding down, I'm gonna go with a Dolive.
Look at that.
A 9-inch.
So we did have
Dolive
two
Crawler.
things that were the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm gonna fish this weightless.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna let the flow of the water control the action of this, and I'm barely gonna move it.
Okay.
I'm gonna cast it out there, hit my target, let it sink down, and then just, you know, give it a couple twitches, and then just let it do its thing. Almost dead sticking it. But then, you know, give it a couple seconds, just give it a couple more twitches, and then let the flow of the water control the action of the bait.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you just rigging it on like a normal worm hook style, or are you wacky rigging it?
7/0 worm hook.
Okay. Just kind of Texas rig, but weightless.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got enough salt in there. It sinks pretty well.
Yep.
It's not gonna float around. It's not gonna get taken away by the water.
Yep.
And it's just gonna do its own thing down there.
That's interesting because that's also my Hail Mary is a weightless worm. I never even thought to do it on the Dolive Crawler.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna start doing it.
Yeah, it's
because
dope.
that's something that we've done for a really long time with a bigger Senko or a cut tail worm. So, you know, Senko is like a staple. Everybody throws a Senko in the spring, right? But then they give up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, guys just stop throwing it, but it's probably one of the most effective summertime worms there is. I usually switch to a cut tail, and basically the difference, the cut tail just has a little different tail, so it's got just a little different shimmy as it falls. So you can rig it the same way as a Senko, but it has just this little different tail to it. So it just gives it a little different action, just slightly more action, I would say. But I do the same thing. I just rig it weightless with like a 6/0 or a 7/0 hook. And this is just like my super finesse. Let me just slow down and really fish quiet and slow and pick some things apart. So that's interesting. This is kind of both our Hail Marys.
Yeah.
But again, like if I've gone through the process and I've ended with this, usually by now I figured something out.
Yeah, definitely.
But if I haven't by this, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going home.
You gotta go home.
Yeah. So
Night's done.
yeah. All right. Well, that's good. Good mindset there on the weightless worm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that is a wrap. Thanks for sharing the insight, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Good time.
it's fun. It's fun talking through different approaches to accomplish the same thing. So
Yeah, it's crazy because everybody does things differently.
totally.
And sometimes you find success and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But you just get in your way, and then that's the way that you like to do things, and then you make small adjustments to what you're doing to find a way to improve.
Totally. And you know, you come into a store like this, and on any given day, pretty much everybody in here could be the right choice. Like you could catch a fish on anything. You just have to choose how you want to catch them.
Yeah.
Right? And what fits your style. So it's fun to have these open conversations because I picked up a couple of things that I haven't done that I'm going to do now.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I know you took mental notes on everything I talked about.
Yeah.
So
if I don't want to catch
don't
fish,
poach my
I'll
shit,
catch
my
fish.
fucker. All right. If you guys have any questions on anything we covered, please drop it down below in the comments and we will definitely get to it. Jeff will leave links to all the products that we just spoke about. If you guys want to check any of them out closer, you can. And please share with us as well. What are you guys using at night? What did we miss? What are your secrets? If you want to share them, and we'll just we'll create one big community of good information so we can all catch more fish. So until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your support and business. And let's go use some of this stuff now.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go night fishing. Okay, peace out, guys. We're hitting the lake.